I'll just start recording. All right. So, this week, the only thing due is your mapping file. I gave you a bit of time because some of you will get it, luck of the draw, drew an easy antidepressant. Well, some of you did not. Okay, so it allows you to like have like at most 3 weeks, includes the spring break, to like work on this. So the teach one that was provided by the teach one that we have right now also gives you some tips on how to handle how to like share your work with others, okay, so that you can help each other complete this. So it's now in Blackboard, and in the discussion board it was by Sadaf. Okay, sorry, miss your name. Okay, Sadaf is not here, but watched it. It will, if you are in groups, I will highly recommend that you watch that. And before we break out into groups later, I will get um, like I want to like set the groups again, the small groups into your previous groups last week. If you wanted to like these in so yes, you can submit your Excel. So Johnny said that for for our assignment, do we just submit our own drug Excel? You can submit your own drug Excel, or you can just submit everything, including the answers of your other group mates. But I will just check whichever is assigned to you. Okay, whichever your is. Okay. Um. Okay, that's great. And then let's start. And then this week we'll go back to all of us. So last few weeks we diverted from all of us. We did some manual analysis. Um, but this time we will take the results of those analysis that we did and create our own and create the data set that's required. So this week and next week, by next week we will be adding data and predicting results. Okay. And finally, there were a couple of you that were not able to like do your teach ones. Okay. Um, I was thinking of what's the best thing to like get you to catch up, right? Because all our teach ones are booked. Okay. So Wanda and Macy, I think you're here. You were not booked. I would suggest like week 14 or week 15, you will present your project. Then so I will like um, prepare you guys on week 13 so that you can present the results of your project. Okay.
Okay, I was also going to ask about that,
Yeah.
because I'm now in all of us, and I've
That's great.
done. I think I'm two assignments behind the one that just passed and the one before
Yeah.
that, and I was going to ask for some help on
Okay.
those after
No
class
worries.
or whenever you have free time.
So if you're free after class, I will just so this goes for everyone who needs help. Okay. If you're free after class, I would just need to prepare the teach ones. Those will be Amy and Lamis. But otherwise, um, after I prepare them, then we can like discuss. I will create like a breakout room with one room will be for the teach ones and the other room will be for consultation. If you're not available after class, then we can like set a time. Usually I'm free Friday morning, Friday afternoon, um, a bit of time on Saturday and then Monday. Yeah.
Okay. I will email you when I'm available and see when you're available,
Sure.
so that you can focus on the teach ones for after class and see if I
Okay.
can grab anything from the previous lecture recording.
Sure. Sure. That sounds great. Okay. So we're finally done with, well, it's due next week for you, but in for my lecture, it's fine. We're finally done with mapping. So how do we use the mapping? Okay. So now we will, as a recap, again, we were trying to map the data required by the brains of the AI, right? And then checking if all the data are available, and if not, then we have to tag them and um, find an approach on how we can include the data to our data set and submit so that we can complete our research or project. So our agenda for today will now be to update the dataset, start the update of the dataset with the required data that we've mapped. Okay, and then of course we will again break out into lab session, and then you can rate um, Sadaf's each one. I see Sadaf here, so I'll make you a moderator. Okay, okay, Sadaf's each one. When we break out, we can do, we will, I will try to like break you up into the same groups as before, and then you can work on your mapping. Okay, and then you will rate the teach one, and then I will prepare the teach ones for next class, which are Amy and Lamis. Okay, but Lamis might not be here, so she might also be a candidate for presenting the final project, right? So now we have the mapping file complete. Okay, um, what we will do today is create concept sets based on the requirements from the mapping file. So remember, we have like an action column in our mapping file. We will now execute those action that we said we will do. So action needed, right? My demo will be for amitriptyline. So your own data, your own approach might be different, but um, but it will just require a few tweaks here and there, and I will tell you when it will be different for you. Okay, when we do this. While we're doing the concept sets and preparing the data set, we will try to look into patterns of the data so that we know how to, at the back of our mind, know how to use it for analysis. And then we include these new data sets into our All of Us notebooks. And if you're accessing All of Us recently, you'll see that it got updated, right? The interface got updated. All of Us now not only supports Jupyter Notebook, it also supports RStudio and SAS. Okay, and finally, there are a few um, code groups that we have created. We will focus on the data requirements for the demographic code groups. So we will do. Remember, we had the wrong age groups, so we will correct that. We will create dummy variables for episodes, remissions, and antidepressants. And next week, we will handle diagnoses, procedures, and medication. Okay, so so let's start. Where is that? Okay, So from this reference file, after you submit your Excel files this week, I will release this a link to those who submitted. I will release the link for this reference file. Okay. Um, this will allow us to have like similar-ish quality. So if my work is low quality, every one of us will have low quality. If my work is good quality, then everyone will have of us will have good quality. That will lessen the variance in the output. Okay. So I will um, I will filter to amitriptyline. Okay, the file, and then I will I will filter the code groups for each code group, for each of these individual code groups. So remember, amitriptyline has DXI, so it's a good example because some of you do not have DXI, only DXO, but I have both DXI and DXO. So I will start with AA. Okay. In AA, we have the demographic data. We have demographic data. I'll zoom this in because I can see that it's so small for you guys. Okay. Maybe 130 is good enough. Okay. One more. Okay. So AA, what we found out is I created an age group um, 14 to 19. But what's really required is 13 to 19. Okay. But when we come back to our previous code in all of us, no, it's signed out. Um, we came back to our previous code in all of us. We found that we drop all unnecessary um, unnecessary columns, right? And one of those unnecessary columns were was date of birth. We dropped it because we thought that we won't use it again. Okay, so we have to recreate age groups. I could have, we could also just rerun everything, but that will take time. Remember, we already have like 90 plus cells at this point in time. So running all of those 90 plus cells just to like update this, it might take a longer time than just recreating the age groups. So what we will do is we have to import um, birthday again, right? We need to make sure that we import birthday again. By doing that, we will be able to recreate the age groups. Okay. So back into all of us. Okay. I think I need to zoom it too. Okay. 195 will do it probably. And then I will create a concept set. I've done it already, but I will show you how. Okay. So I will create a concept set. Sorry, back. For demographics. So I will use our cohort demographics and then view the table to explore. It's really important to explore your data. And we only need date of birth, right? We only need date of birth, and we need for which person in our cohort that date of birth belongs to. So what I'll do is just deselect everything, choose person ID and date of birth. Okay, view the table, again, yeah, that's pretty much what I need. I will just so I can like put back the date of birth column into my data set. Okay, and I will create a data set. I called it, I think, birthday, right? Birthday. Okay, you can name it whatever, but I called it birthday and save it. Okay, I won't because I already created that. I will not click analyze. I will do that um, uh, later. Okay. So after you created this data set, let's go back to our mapping file. So in our mapping file, there's two other things that are no for demographics. And those are the episode numbers and the remission numbers, right? We wanted to convert them into two dummy variables. No need to import additional data. We already have that in our analysis data frame, if you still remember. So no further action needed. I will just handle that through code instead of importing a dataset again. So we're done. We're done with code group AA. Now I'll go to code group DXI. Okay. For me, I only have one DXI for amitriptyline. You might have more. Okay. But so you will have to do this more times. Okay. But for me, there's just one. So I'll just create again. Select this. Go to conditions. Now, I already have a code mapping. I just have to make sure that I can find that code because that code is an ICD-9 code. So I need to turn on this toggle that I will be searching for ICD-9s. Okay. And I will just copy 428.0. Okay. I will select this. Okay. And then at the bottom, finish and review. I will save the concept set and create a new one, and I will call that DXI. Okay, but it already exists, so I won't save it. Now, if you have a V code in your DXIs, you will have additional tables, okay, for your data set. But we will handle that when I have DXO, because in DXO I do have those V codes, but you might have V codes in DXI as well for your own. So just follow um, the same process as DXI if you have V codes for your DXI. Okay, I'll discard changes, but what happens now is so what happens now is that I will choose my cohort. I will choose my created concept set DXI. I'll view the table. Okay. Let's inspect what the table has. So it's similar to um, your old um, disease data frame, if you still remember, right? They have a um, similar structure, but if we go to the right, go to the right, there's something here that we need. Visit current concept name. Because for conditions, it it matters whether it's an outpatient or an inpatient. Okay? Or an inpatient. So we have to make sure that we also import particular um, this particular column. Okay? And then when you scroll to the right, you will also see some source concept code. So we will require that instead of the standard concept code that we previously use, okay? Because we are using ICD-9 codes, the standard concept code is in SNOMED. So that will not SNOMED, remember. So that will not be useful for us in in replicating the AI. We need a we need data in ICD-9. So we will need to import source concept code as well. So what I will need will be I will deselect everything, right? Will be person ID. Okay. I can import the name just to guide me, but I won't. Okay, because we all know we will just be working with codes here. Okay, and then I'll need the condition start time and end time. Okay, I will then need the visit occurrence concept name, right? Remember, visit occurrence concept name, because that's where we will find out whether it's an outpatient visit or an inpatient visit. And then finally, source concept code. Okay, and then I'll view the table. Looks about right, right? Looks about right. We need the person ID, when that condition happened, what are the source concept codes, and these will be multiple concept codes if you have multiple DXIs, and then whether it's inpatient or outpatient. Okay, because it matters if it's inpatient or outpatient. Okay, if it's blank, when I let's just see. Okay, what is why when visit occurrence is blank? What does that mean? Okay, at least in the data. So this is what we call exploratory data analysis. Okay, so when it's blank, I will. I think it's condition type concept name. So I explored this earlier. Okay, so it's a billing entry. Okay, so if it's blank, it's usually just a billing entry. Okay, so we don't know whether it's a billing for outpatient or inpatient. Okay, so if this is blank, then we will disregard it probably, or create a tag that it's blank. Okay, so again, to reset everything, I'll just reset everything. So we will need person ID. Okay, um, the start time and the end time of the condition, the the occurrence concept name, so we know if it's inpatient or outpatient, and then the source concept code. Okay, view table. Then we can create a data set. We call that dataset DXI, but that name already exists for me. And then hit the save. Okay, and we'll do the same thing for DXO. Okay, so I will show now for DXO, you will see that I have V codes. Okay, and I will show you what happens when you have V codes. Okay, so again, here I will create a concept set. Go to conditions. Um, and then again, select this toggle. Select this toggle so that we can view it in ICD-9. We can search ICD-9 codes. Okay, and then let's go back to our mapping file. So put this in one by one. So for example, 357.2. Okay, is it 357.2? Enter and select that. And then I select 250.01, 250.01, like that. 2. Then I'll select that. So select the right code, right? So there will be 296.20. That's different from 296.2. In ICD-9, a 0 means something, right? So 296.20 is different from 296.2. Okay, so 0 means unspecified. Okay, and so on and so forth. And finally, you will enter, right? For example, the last code, select it, finish and review, save the concept set. I will call that concept set DXO, but again, and then you can save that, but I can't. we're done. So we can now create that data set. So blacks with MDD bipolar, I will select DXO. I will preview the table. And now this is what happens. If you have V codes in your ICD-9, right, DXO or DXI, usually before we only had a condition table, right, a condition table. But now we have three tables: conditions for your plain old um, ICD-9 that is also um, addressing a disease similar to our disease or a condition, a medical condition, right? But there's an ICD-9 code, V code for screening mammography, and it's actually under measurements. So now we have a measurement um, a measurement table, and we also have routine gynecologic examination, which is a procedure. So we also have a procedure table, and these tables are a bit different from each other. So procedures, that's for V7231. For measurements, that's for V7612, and then everything else is in condition. Okay. So here, when we select the values, we will select the values for condition, for measurement, and for procedure. Okay. So let's start with condition because we know that we have done that previously in DXI. So we know that we will only need person ID. I'm now deselecting. Okay, instead of just the person ID. I need the start time and the end time of that condition, right? And then I need the visit occurrence concept name to know whether it's an inpatient or outpatient. Because here we need it to be an outpatient. Okay. And then I will now deselect the rest. Okay. And sorry, source concept code. I also need to select source concept code. Okay. And then a previous table. Supposedly the condition table will have what we need. Okay. So person ID, the dates, um, inpatient or outpatient, so visit occurrence concept name, and then the ICD-9 code. Okay. Now we go to measurement. Measurement looks different. Okay. Instead of a start time and an end time, it just has a measurement date time. Okay. We need that. And then we also need to know whether it's outpatient or inpatient. So here it's measurement type concept name. Okay. So it's outpatient, or here there's some inpatient there as well. Okay. So this is where we will find that. Okay. Sorry. There's also a visit occurrence concept name. So just to be standard, we'll just use that visit occurrence concept name. And then we also have the source code, right? The source concept code. So let's do that. So person ID, but we won't need these. We will only need measurement date time. Okay, it does not have an end time. Okay. I will and then visit occurrence concept name. Okay. And then source concept code. All right, source concept code. I need this one, source concept code. And then when we preview the table, the measurement should now be um, looking good for us. Okay. So measurement. And finally, we will do procedures. Okay, so procedure is also just have one date time. So procedure date time. Okay, and we have a should have a visit occurrence concept ID as well here. Visit occurrence concept name as well and a source concept code. Okay, so we'll do that. So for procedure, we need a person ID, and then we need the procedure date time. Visit occurrence concept name and the source concept code. And then we preview the table. So we see that do we have what we need? I think we do. I think we do. Then we create a data set. Create a data set. We call that data set maybe DXO. Again, the name already exists. I'll cancel that. And then we will export later everything. Okay. So now it seems that we're done with DXO. We'll go to the second the next concepts, which is procedures. I only have 3 procedures. You might have more. You might have no procedures. Okay. So again, go click that button. But for procedures, I will go to procedures. And these are again in SNOMED. I wanted it to be in CPT. These codes are in CPT. So I will toggle that so I can search in CPT. So it will be this code. Okay. That this code. Add that. And finally this code. Add that. And I'll go click finish and review. Save the concept set. Create a new concept set. I'll call it PX. Okay, and then you click save. I can't. And then let's go ahead and create the data set. So blacks with MDD disorder, you select PX, TX, view the table, we explore the data. Let's explore exploratory data analysis. So we explore the data. So we see that standard concept code is in CPT. So we can do that. Let me just look. But just for um, just for standardization, we will still use for source concept code, right? Source concept code. Okay. So for procedures, we only need the patient ID, the concept code, and the date. Okay. So I'll deselect everything. We'll select person ID, right? And I'll have the date, procedure date time. Okay, I need to know when that happened because we are only interested in diagnoses, procedures, and medications that you took before you took the antidepressant, before the antidepressant trial. Okay, that started before the antidepressant trial. Procedure date time. Okay, and then we do not need to know whether or not it's an inpatient or outpatient for a procedure. So we don't need to select visit occurrence concept name. Okay. And then source concept code. And then we view the table. We only need these rows. So patient ID, procedure, date, time, and source concept code. And we click create the data set. We type PX. Name already exists. It might, but if for you, we will click save. Okay. And then we have the data set. Our last data set is medications. Okay. So we go to drug exposures. No need to toggle because when we were doing the mapping file, we were like just finding RX norms, and then RX norm is a default coding for coding standard in all of us. So we go to RX in our mapping file, and then we search all of these guys. 704 will be a hit. RX norm 704. Add that. Um, I think there's an error here somewhere. 17767. Add that. Oh, here. 12. This one is okay too. Baclofen. Oh, here. I think this is the one that's errored out. So sometimes it won't find anything. Oh, it found something now. Before when I tried it, it didn't find bupropion. So now it found it. I just add that. And then if you have this, you have to add both 5489, hydrocodone, and 161. Have to add acetaminophen. Okay. And once you have done with everything, so for example, I'm done. This is what I've added. This is the last thing in my file, trazodone. I click finish and review. Yeah, you save the concept set, create a new one. I call it RX. It already exists, but you will click save. I won't. I'll cancel. And then I will create the dataset. Okay, so blacks with MDD without bipolar, and then select RX. Okay, and we preview the table. Okay, now RX is pretty big, right? And it's not as standard as we wanted it. It's not showing here, but it will also put in RX norm, and then there will be another code, like I don't know, another drug code. So it's not that clean. So there will be a lot of cleaning that we'll do later. But for now, what we just need is like the person ID, right? The person ID, the drug exposure time, the drug exposure end time, right? Drug exposure end time, and the code. But we will also need now to import the vocabulary because I told you sometimes let's just go for RX this RX. Let's just do RX 704. It's just one drug, 704 RX norm. So here, it's not a good. This is not a good example. Yeah. So yeah, sometimes 704 RX amitriptyline has another code for another patient. Like another patient use a different vocabulary other than RX norm, but it's still amitriptyline. Okay. So we also have to import standard vocabulary aside from just the standard concept code. Okay. So that means I will deselect everything. I'll need person ID, the standard concept code. I'll need the standard concept name as well. Why? Because I will do some manual grouping. I will send you the manual groups later next week. Okay. Standard vocabulary, and then the drug exposure start date and end time. And the others, we don't need them. We just need to know whether they took this medication prior to taking the antidepressant. Okay. And then we create the data set. I called it the RX data set. Okay. You will click save. I won't. Okay. And then we'll go back to data. Click on data sets. Okay. and find the data sets that you created. So I created birthday data set, I click that, I click on analyze. Now, as you see, there's Python, R, and SAS. Because we're doing Python, we'll retain Python. Select your notebook and export it. And do it for all the data sets that we have just created, right? Export the birthday data set, okay? Um, so the birthday data set, the DXI data set, the DXO data set, PX, and RX, okay? So once you exported that, you can go back to the code. So here, we'll go back to our code again. The good thing since last time is that we reduce the data set very well. That everything now just runs smoothly, and I just use a very small server, 8 CPUs, 30 gigs of RAM. Um, so everything will run now. I hope. I ran it. I ran it earlier. Okay, it's not. It's taking time. What you can also do while that is loading, right, is you can actually download some of these files onto your laptop. So you select the file that you want to download. For example, we created analysis DF reduced. You want to see how it looks like in Excel or in Notepad++. Just select that, click download, and it will ask you to like affirm. There's a window that says you have to affirm. Just type affirm, and you can download that data set. So for example, I have one here. So here, so you can also do data exploration, exploratory data exploration on your data set visually, and not just do codes, right? Not just even before doing Python, so that you can see, okay, this is how our data set looks like right now. It has thousands and thousands of columns. Most of them are disease columns, but some of them are like the AD grouping, trial number, earliest AD start date. So this is a good hack to do, especially sometimes now our data set is too huge that when we put in head or info, it does not give us a lot of data. It does not give us a lot of information, right? When we use the pandas data exploration tools like head, info, tail, um, well, shape still works. Yeah. Okay. So remember, we created a checkpoint when we ended last time. I think it was Anne's teach one that helped us create the checkpoint. So we don't have to actually run the code from the top, right? We just have to run the code from that checkpoint. And after that checkpoint, your imported data will be here, right? So this is the last code that Anne helped us create in her teach one, okay? And then when you click analyze on your data set, it will be at the end of the code. The the code snippet that will generate will be at the end of the code. So you will get these cells. Okay. So remember what we did? We have to copy these things, right? So I copied that into a Word file. I'm sorry, a notebook file. So the first data set, the birthday data set, I called it birthday DF. Okay. The next data set, DXI, I call that DXI condition data frame. Why? Because I only have a condition table for my DXI. If you have other tables for the DXI, follow what's happening in DXO. Okay. Then I imported the next one. Okay. That's the DXO condition data frame. The following one will be the DXO procedure data frame. Okay. DXO procedure. And then finally the DXO measurement data frame. Okay. The next one will be the PX data frame, and the last one will be the RX data frame. Okay. RX data frame. So it's easy to see whether it's a condition or procedure or measurement because at the end of what you copied, right, will be condition DF, procedure DF, measurement DF, right? You just want to make sure that they're tagged to a DXI or a DXO. Okay? And then the birthday just contains the birthdays. Okay. So you copy that into this notepad. Okay. So you start running your code from the checkpoint. So run this, importing your libraries, read the analysis DF reduce CSV that we just read, that we just wrote last time. Okay. And then run all the cells that imports your data from all of us. Okay. Run them. There's a bit of them. Okay. Now we're ready to add these data into our data set, starting with the demographics data set. Okay. So copy this into here so that you can rename the data frames, right? Again, this is a mouthful, but we know it's a birthday data frame. That's easy, right? The DXI conditions, the DXO procedures, the DXO measurement, PX and RX, right? Procedures for PX and RX for medication. So make sure that you copy that and run that. This is an entire comments row that just allows me to track what are the columns inside of my data frame that I created earlier, the analysis DF reduced. So remember, we have all of these rows, all of these columns, person, ID, AD not grouping, trial number, earliest AD start date, remission, the age groups, and then the antidepressant histories, the indicator of female, and the counts for episodes, remissions, and antidepressants. And remember that we created dummy variables for the disease codes. Okay, this allows this just instead of me scrolling up and down very far, I just put it there. Okay, so this is optional for your assignment. It allows me to easily just map the table, sorry, the column names. Okay. All right, for the demographics data, the first thing that we have to do, I'll have to zoom this in. Yeah. The first thing that we have to do is to redo the age groups, right? So instead of running the age groups on the top and then changing it, I'll just recreate them. Okay. So I know that the age group columns currently are 14 to 19 instead of 13 to 19, right? Then 20 to 40, 41 to 64, 65 to 79, 80 to 89. I'll just drop them because I'll recreate them anyway. So I'll just drop all of those columns. And then we have a birthday. We add the birthday back. We left join the birthday to our analysis data frame. That means our analysis data frame will have a birthday. Okay. And then we make sure that earliest AD start date and the date of birth or the birthday are in dates format so that we can create calculations on them. Okay. And then we create age@AD. And then check the head. You can see that we have effectively like added date of birth and the age columns to each row in the data frame. Okay. Now, we recreate the bins. As you remembered last time, this was number 13. We changed it to 12. So now we have a corrected labels as 0 to 12, and then 13 to 19. Okay. So those are, and then the rest were the same. Okay. And then we just um, created age ranges based on the age groups that we created dummy variables for those age range, okay? And then put back dummy variables into our original data frame, okay? And finally, we drop any unneeded columns. So we don't need date of birth anymore. We don't need the age anymore. We don't need the age range. And for dummy variables to prevent dummy variable trap, we will like drop to prevent dummy variable trap. We will drop one of the age groups. We will drop 0 to 12. Okay. And once we drop this, when we put in head, we can see that we have the age groups, corrected age groups. Now it's 13 to 19 instead of 14 to 19. 13 to 19, 20 to 40, and everything else is the same. Okay. Following the same approach that we use for age, we will now create dummy variables as well for a number of episodes. We have to convert them from a continuous variable, which is um, uh, a number that is not discrete, into discrete buckets or bins of episodes. Okay, how do we decide what are the bins? So, not this one. Not this. So when we come here, okay, I will just select everything. And then I go to AA. I look into um, all the possible um, values needed for episodes, remission, and number of antidepressants. Okay. So what I found out is for for episodes, I just need to make sure that I can tag if there are two or more episodes. Right. For remission, I just need to make sure that I can tag if there are two or more remissions. Okay. But for number of antidepressant and ADEP, I need to tag whether there are 2 to 3 antidepressants or 4 and more, 4P. Okay. So I needed to create ADEP for my data columns. I needed to create ADEP on 2 to 3, ADEP 4P for 4 plus, EPI 2 episode, EPI 2P, and then remission 2P, okay? REM 2P. So yeah. So those are what I need. So how do I do that? Similar to how we did it for age, I look into the range, what's the lowest and the highest value for episodes. So we're 0 to 15. Again, for episodes, I just need to tag whether it's 0 to 1 or 2 plus. Okay. So my bins are 0, 1, and the maximum 15, right? So the labels will be EP01 and EP2P, right? I create the range, I create the dummy variables, and I drop unneeded columns. Okay, and again, we drop. Sorry, I will just copy this. We drop unneeded columns. Okay, so labels EP001, which is 0 to 1. Okay, EP2 plus. I create a range based on the labels and the bins. I created the dummies, and then I put back the dummy variables into our original data frame and drop the unneeded columns. And EP01, we drop that to prevent the dummy variable trap. Okay. And when we do head, we can see that epi2p is already created. And we do a similar thing for remissions. Okay, for remissions, we do we have 0 to 12 number of remissions. Okay, again, from our mapping file, we just need to tag whether if we have remissions of 2 or more. Okay, 2 or more. So our labels bins will be 0 to 1, which is less than 2. Okay, and then 2 and more, 2 plus. Okay, so rem 01 and rem 2p. Okay, so we create the range from those bins, and then the dummy variables, and then we drop unneeded columns. Okay, so I will pause here, and then we will see that we have rem2p here. Okay, and finally, for the number of antidepressants, our range is 0 to 10. But this time, we needed to create antidepressants 2 to 3 and 4 plus. So our bins will be 0 to 1, 2 to 3, 2 to 3, and 4 plus, which is 4 to 10. Okay, because the maximum is 10. Again, we create the range, and we create the dummy from that range, dummy variables from that range, put back the dummy variables into the original dataset, drop unneeded columns, and we finally have ADEP2 to 3 and ADEP4P. So when we look at our mapping file, so for amitriptyline, and then everything, sorry, this one, select everything, and then this one, select everything. I have covered everything from code group AA, which is the demographics and measurement code groups. Okay, I created 2P for thresholds, 2P for remissions. I created ADEP, but that's not for me. That will be for you guys, so that you know the code if you did have ADEP requirement. Okay, I changed the age groups. Okay? So that's it. And then the next time, our next meeting, we will add diagnosis and procedures and medications, and then create a prediction. Okay, but that's it for now. I'll stop recording now.